The portrait shouldn't have mattered. It was just another oil painting hanging in the long, quiet hallway of the mansion, another face from the boss's carefully curated past. But the moment Maria lifted her eyes from the silver tray in her trembling hands, the world seemed to tilt. The tray clattered to the marble floor, the sound sharp and unforgiving, and before she could stop herself, the words tore out of her chest like a confession she'd been holding in for decades. "Boss, my mom adopted that boy. He grew up with me," she shouted, her voice cracking as tears flooded her eyes. "If this moment already has your heart racing, stay with me until the end, because what unfolded next changed lives forever. And if stories that touch your soul matter to you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this deserve to be shared." The boss, Mr. Adrian Hale, froze mid-step. He was a man known for composure, for control, for never letting emotion disturb the crisp lines of his tailored suits or the cold efficiency of his decisions. Employees whispered that he had a heart of stone, that success had carved the warmth out of him long ago. Yet when Maria spoke, something ancient and fragile stirred behind his eyes. He turned slowly toward the portrait she was staring at, the portrait of a boy no older than 10, with curious dark eyes and a faint, hesitant smile. Adrian had passed that painting 1,000 times, always too busy to truly see it. Now, it felt as if the boy in the frame was staring straight back at him, demanding to be remembered. Maria sank to her knees, her hands shaking as she pressed them to her mouth. Memories crashed over her in waves she had never allowed herself to feel while scrubbing floors or polishing glass. She saw a cramped apartment with peeling paint, smelled lentils simmering on the stove, heard her mother's tired but gentle voice calling 2 children in for dinner. She remembered the day her mother came home holding the hand of a thin, frightened boy with bruises on his arms and eyes that flinched at every sound. "This is Daniel," her mother had said softly. "He needs us." From that moment on, Maria's life had changed, though she had been too young to understand how deeply. Daniel had arrived with nothing but a small backpack and a silence that spoke louder than words. He barely talked at first. He'd sit by the window, watching the world as if he didn't quite believe he was allowed to be part of it. Maria's mother, Rosa, never asked for explanations. She simply made space, on the couch, at the table, in her heart. She taught Maria to share, not just toys and food, but patience and kindness. Over time, Daniel began to smile. He learned to laugh when Maria teased him, learned to trust the warmth of Rosa's hand on his shoulder. To Maria, he wasn't adopted or rescued. He was just her brother. Years passed in that small apartment, filled with both struggle and love. Rosa worked double shifts as a cleaner, coming home exhausted but never too tired to listen to her children talk about school. Maria and Daniel grew side by side, sharing dreams whispered late at night. Daniel dreamed of becoming someone important, someone who could protect others the way Rosa had protected him. Maria dreamed of a life where her mother wouldn't have to work so hard, where love would be enough to shield them from the world's cruelty. They didn't have much, but what they had felt unbreakable. Then one night, everything shattered. Maria was 14, Daniel 16. Rosa didn't come home. A call came instead, cold and final, telling them there had been an accident. The world went silent. In the days that followed, social workers arrived, papers were signed, decisions were made over their heads. Maria went to live with a distant aunt who barely knew her name. Daniel, already labeled, troubled, because of his past, was sent away to a foster system that swallowed boys whole and spit them out hardened and alone. The night they were separated, Daniel had hugged Maria tightly and whispered, "No matter what happens, don't forget me." She never did. Life forced Maria to grow up fast. She learned to survive, to work, to lower her eyes and swallow her pride. Years later, when she became a maid in Adrian Hale's mansion, she told herself it was temporary, just a job. But temporary became permanent as the years slipped by. She cleaned halls lined with art and luxury she could never touch, always careful to stay invisible. She never spoke of her past. It was easier that way. Safer. Adrian Hale, meanwhile, had built an empire. His name was etched into buildings, his signature worth millions. But success came at a cost he rarely acknowledged. He had grown up in privilege, but not in love. His parents had been distant, cold, more interested in appearances than affection. One day, without explanation, a boy he had befriended at a charity program, an orphan named Daniel, had simply disappeared from his life. Adrian had been a child then, powerless to stop it, but the guilt lingered like a shadow he could never outrun. He had commissioned the portrait years later, the only way he knew how to honor a memory he couldn't quite face. As Maria's sobs echoed through the hallway, Adrian felt the walls he'd built around his heart begin to crack. "What did you say?" he asked quietly. Maria looked up, fear flashing across her face. She had broken every rule, spoken out of turn, revealed personal history, shown emotion. She expected anger. Instead, she saw something else: pain.